Today, Yemen's future hangs in the balance as external supporters of the conflict weigh their options. On one side, we have the Iran-backed Houthi rebels, and on the other, government forces propped by a Saudi-led coalition. All eyes are now on Washington, which has announced a pivot in foreign policy. Joe Biden wants to end U.S. support for Riyadh's offensive operations in Yemen. France 24's Peter O'Brien takes a look back at what brought us here.
Oil, rice, beans and grain. The World Food Programme's shopping list is simple, but getting it out to 13 million Yemenis each month, as they're trying to do, is not. The famine is just one of the consequences of a decade of conflict. In early 2011, protests erupted amid the Arab Spring. Thousands of people called for the removal of President Ali Abdullah Saleh, in power for 33 years, accusing him of corruption and nepotism. The Houthi movement, already in armed conflict with the government, joined the revolution. The demonstrations were violently suppressed, and hundreds of people lost their lives. It took an exit plan brokered by a council of Gulf countries backed by the EU and US for Saleh to leave power. Vice President Abd Rabbo Mansour Hadi took over, and the following year he won an election where he was the only candidate. Meanwhile, various insurrection groups, including Al-Qaeda, were trying to take advantage of the chaos and extend their influence. Yemen's poor economy, dependent on oil, got worse in 2014 with a global drop in crude oil prices, while the conflict between government forces and Houthi rebels intensified. The militants seized control of the capital Sana'a and then the presidential compound, and in March 2015 a Saudi-led military coalition intervened, backed by the United States. Its goal is to restore power to President Hadi, currently in exile in Saudi Arabia, and counter the regional influence of Iran, which supports the Houthis. Yemen, under civil war, has been consumed by airstrikes, firefights, bombings, epidemics and famine. Today, Houthi territory extends over the west of Yemen. They control around a third of the country, including the capital and the key port of Hodeidah.
Now, as I mentioned earlier this week, we want to bring you the voices of resistance and courage from Yemen. So let's now cross to Sana'a, where Sakina Sharaf is standing by. She's a mother of one who bore witness to the atrocities perpetrated in the civil war firsthand when she worked for a British charity. Sakina, thank you so much for speaking to us. Before I come to you, let's watch a clip of the video that you made for Save the Children.
It was midnight when my contraction started. We had to go to 3 different hospitals before we found one where they had electricity. There were airstrikes all around. It was so scary. In the end, I needed a C-section and I asked to have a general anesthetic because I didn't want to hear the sound of bombs when my son was born.
Sakina, as we heard, your son was born at the peak of the conflict. Can you paint a picture for our viewers of what daily challenges you face today as a woman living in a war-ravaged country?
Yes, actually living in Yemen is just very, very exhausting. We worry about every single thing from the moment we wake up. Our daily struggles is to make ends meet, and basically because people have lost their jobs because of the economic collapse and the devaluation of the Yemeni rial, everything is ridiculously expensive. So, we try to adapt to everything, but electricity, for example, is a burden at home, and fuel to go to work is a biggest struggle, especially these days. The prices, you can get fuel for 5 minutes and it costs triple the price if you queue for 8 hours. And with people who don't have salaries or very limited money income, it's a big challenge.
It does sound like a massive challenge. So can you tell us what a normal day looks like for someone like you?
For me, I wake up in the morning and just make coffee and we drink it by the balcony for the nice view. Then my son heads to school and my husband goes to work. And yeah, we try to live a normal life where I cook. Now I'm a stay-home mom, and I decided to stay home to look after my son and to kind of take a break because it kind of was overwhelming for me to be a mother and a woman in the current crisis. And it's overwhelming to see people struggling as a humanitarian worker and not let it get into you, especially as a mother and seeing children struggle. So yeah, for us, our daily, we try to make the best out of it. At night, we watch Netflix and we just try to relax, me and my husband. And yeah, but unfortunately for my son, it hurts me a lot knowing that he had known nothing but work. So, and I had to move his schools over and over. He's only about to be in first grade and he has changed schools so many times because of hot zones and airstrikes that come suddenly and they just hit midday or so on. So yeah, we try to adapt to everything, but just the little things, the daily struggle is just too much. To be home and knowing that you're not safe is very, very hard.
Sakina, you've just been talking about your own personal challenges, and as I said earlier, you also have a deep insight into how others are living through the work that you did for Save the Children. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I got to witness, with working with for Save the Children, I got to travel to villages and hard-to-reach areas, and it was heartbreaking for me to see how people were surviving on the basics needs were not available for them. I mean, they would actually boil water, put spices on top of it, and they would sip it and they would consider it a meal. Or I would find a mother struggling with 5, 6 children on her own and with no source of income and just relying completely on the humanitarian aid or food baskets that organizations like Save the Children provide. And the list goes on and on. And it's shocking that, before the crisis, organizations and humanitarian workers focused on development and education and making quality education better for many children. But now their main focus is to make families survive. I mean, it's shocking that people are starving in their homes, and I actually got to see that. I witnessed children who are skin and bones, who don't even have tears to cry. Their tears are actually dry. That's how bad it is.
That's really heart-wrenching. Sakina, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Sakina Sharaf, thank you so much for sharing your really important, touching story with us here on Middle East Matters.
Thank you for having me.
Now it's time for us to bring you the voices of children who are rarely heard in one of the most dangerous places on earth. Many of them are experiencing an unprecedented level of hunger. Others have little or no access to education. Some have even been used as human shields. Let's head over to Taiz in the southwest of the country, the port city of Aden, and the capital, Sana'a, to listen to those testimonies.
كنت عمري 9 سنين. نزلت الشارع ألعب، قال لي رصاصة، عور لي الحبل الشوكي، أنا ما أقدر أمشي. أنا أشتم شيء ما بشمل باليمن، أشتي أسافر خارج بس أبي ما ظروفه صعبة.
وأبي كان صيدلاني من قبل، كان يشتغل صيدلية دكتور، والحروب وقفته، يعني ما اشتغلش هذه الأيام، وأنا المسؤول شغال. الحرب غيرت حياتي. كنت طالبا في المدرسة والآن أنا أشتغل في معي باص. أحلامي أن تتوقف الحرب وأنا أعود إلى دراستي وأن يعود أبي إلى عمله السابق
حقنا ب40 ونحن ضبحانين وبيروح السوق وما معاه الشغل، يحصل الشغل ونحن ضبحانين. شي أوقاف الحرب نسيب أنزل بلادي دروس بلادي.
لو مضوي من المدرسة أخرج مع أبي أتأخر نشتغل نلقط لنا قوارير وأوفر للبيت الزبادي والخبز والمصروف حقنا حق الجعالة وحق الجهة. عندما كانت تأتي الطيارة كان صوتها يفزعنا ويخوفنا ونخاف، والضرب والقصف والصواريخ كان نخاف بشدة.